Hello and welcome back to Afterglow episode 104. In this episode, we'll be checking out Final Fantasy V, which originally released on the Super Famicom over in Japan. Over here where I'm from in America, we got it, I believe, originally on the PlayStation 1, although I emulated it first before trying it in Game Boy Advance before finally playing it whenever the first batch of remasters came out, which we'll get into later in this show. But yeah, this game I really, really enjoy, and it escaped me for a really, really long time, which is so weird. With me being a huge Final Fantasy fan, I just kind of passed over 5 for a little while. But I did eventually find my path and really, really enjoyed this game. I'll be discussing my thoughts with our special guest that will also be on talking about with me after our first music break, which is coming up right now. And welcome back. For this episode, we have a guest. If you'd like to introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do, and whatnot.
Hey everyone, I am Chris. I am from the Retro Hangover podcast, where myself and my buddy Shane talk about old video games. It's, kind of your stereotypical retro gaming podcast, except we open it up when I shout really loud about a dick dragon. So there's that. But yeah, that's me over at Retro Hangover, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much. Looking forward to talking some Final Fantasy V.
While we're talking about dick dragons, do dragons actually have dicks, or do they have like coccyxes? I'm actually not 100% on that.
I need to find out because we all know the site Bad Dragon has its own interpretation of that. So I'm leaning towards they might have dicks.
There's a good chance either way. Like, I've rolled 34 to this, and I've seen both, so it didn't really clarify it for me.
I like that answer. 34, of course, yeah. You're going to get everything on Rule 34, guaranteed.
Right. There's some amazing artwork there of Lena's pet that she uses early in this game.
Oh, I'm sure. That's like a sea dragon.
Yep, there was Lena's, which was I think it was called a drake in this game rather than a dragon.
Oh,
but then
Lena. I thought you said Ferris, which is Sidril.
Okay. Right, Ferris had the I don't know what it was, Loch Ness Monster, whatever.
Yeah, just a giant sea thing.
Right. We're kind of jumping ahead here, but when did you first hear about Final Fantasy V? When did you first play it?
So I think I first heard about Final Fantasy V around the time Final Fantasy VII came out. Because if you were growing up back in the day, this has been documented time and time and time again. It went from Final Fantasy III to Final Fantasy VII. And everyone was like, where are the other Final Fantasies? Well, the numbering system for the series was just a little jacked up because we didn't get 2, 3, or 5. And that's also around the time that emulation started becoming a more accessible thing for just the general public, and so were fan translations. So I think the first time I played it was in either 1998 or 1999. It was almost right after the fan translation came out, and I remember the way I played it was we had zip drives. Do you remember what zip drives are?
Sure yes, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I actually used them a lot in publication class in high school. We actually were using them on a Mac, surprisingly.
I think I had a Mac at the time. Funny enough.
What were you using the 100 megabyte version?
Yes,
okay.
Which was massive. That was massive. 100 megabytes. Nothing ever needed to be bigger than 100 megabytes. Ever.
Oh, you never needed more than 100 megabytes for storage, for mass storage, even.
No, not back then.
That and your 8 megabytes of RAM, you're good to go.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of getting off the track here, but whatever. But the reason I remember it is because I think the game was bigger than what a floppy could hold, which I think was 1.43 megabytes. And yeah, so it needed to be bigger than that. You had to put on the zip drive, and I brought it home and everything like that. And I was finally able to play it. And when I first started playing it, I absolutely hated it because I didn't understand what the hell was going on. I thought it was overly difficult. I didn't understand the class system. So I just kind of put it down. And at this time, of course, because it was a game that we didn't get, everyone was like, oh, Final Fantasy V is the best one. It's the best one. So I felt overhyped and underdelivered on that promise. But
similar story with me.
What's that?
Similar story with me.
Yeah.
I first got it through emulation, downloaded it, and I heard a few good things about it, and I didn't explore it at all. I'm here like, this is stupid. Why is he being all buddy-buddy with a chocobo? It's not supposed to be his partner. They're supposed to ride on them like they do in 3 and 7. And why is his name Butts? Because I'm a stupid American. I'm just going to laugh at his name. So, no, I did not get far into it my first go-round. But anyway, carry on.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But it came out on the Final Fantasy... Was it the anthology it came out on? It wasn't the collection. There was the anthology and there was the collection. One of the two.
Right, it came out in PS1, and I missed this release, so...
Yeah. And I actually got that collection before it came out in the United States. It's a really cool-looking collection. It's like this blue cover that has these kind of water impressions on it. It comes with 4, 5, and 6 in one box. It's really cool. And I got the Japanese version of that first, but then when it came out in North America, of course, I picked it up then. And I still didn't play a lot of it because those collections kind of suck outside of the movies. And
load times.
Load times are awful. They're just not well optimized. But I think it was finally when it came out on the Game Boy Advance, like a year after it came out on the Game Boy Advance, I finally sat down and played all the way through it. And that's when it finally caught fire. That's when it finally clicked. I'm like, oh, yeah, this game's really good. And then ever since, I've held it in high regard. And then when I learned about the 4-job Fiesta like 4 or 5 years ago, I've been playing it every year since. So it's become a hallmark in my gameplay experience pretty routinely.
It took me a bit longer to get into it. I got the Game Boy version, but I got it used. And I started it, and I played, I want to say a couple hours into it, only to find out that my battery didn't work in the cartridge.
Oh.
So that alone turned me off from the game again. And my first actual serious playthrough and beating it, and I know I'm probably going to catch hell from Keith from Main Quest, and I might catch hell from you too, because the first time I played through and beat it was on the Steam version of the mobile port. Not the Pixel remaster, but the original one that had the weird sprites.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you hell for it. I'm just going to feel sorry for you.
That was my first time playing through it, but I do want to stress, so even though graphically it was definitely a couple steps down, the core gameplay was still there, and the core gameplay is really good.
Yeah. I mean, it's as long as they didn't mess with it, and they haven't, largely in any port that they've done or any remake that they've done. As long as it plays the same, that's what's important, even if it looks gross.
I did replay it again for the Pixel remaster, and it was a much better experience in the eyes, even though they cut out all the extra content that they put in through the years. So the 2 extra jobs are not in the Pixel remaster.
There are people out there that don't like the extra content, which okay.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. And going a little bit off track, but Final Fantasy 1, I love the extra dungeons in that game, and a lot of people were happy whenever they're ripped out. I'm like, what? I really enjoyed them.
Yeah. I know, again, going off track here, one of the things I loved about Final Fantasy IV Advance was that at the end of the game, you could go back and put the other people in your party. I think you could do the same thing in the PSP version. There's extra dungeons. You could go fight the final boss with like Palom and Porom and kick that, freeloading ninja out of your party. Because Edge sucks. But You could do all those combinations, and then like the Pixel Remaster comes out, and like, oh, we just want to be faithful. It's like, but I liked those things. You couldn't have an option like as DLC, I guess. As much as I don't want to say that, kind of makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit. But couldn't you like have a DLC option for the people that want that? I would like that. There's extra classes in this game that are
I'm
cool.
going to take it a step further. Rather than DLC, if you go in the menus of the Pixel Remaster, you have a toggle switch to toggle on and off the original music and the new music. Why not toggle on and off the bonus content?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you want to be a purist, be a purist. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone wants to play a game the way they want to. But it's not like these versions don't exist. They're there. We can see them. We want them. We want at least I do, an accessible way to play it, and maybe better optimized, because I do understand that the Game Boy Advance versions had some issues. Like particularly with Final Fantasy IV, it just plays weird.
Mm-hmm. Although I do like that they re-added back in the special attacks that the Super Nintendo version didn't have.
But the special attacks and
like for example, Kane using darkness, which was like hit everyone on screen to sacrifice some health.
Oh yeah, and that's because the version we got here in the United States was
neutered.
Yeah, very much so. It was very neutered. I don't want to talk about Final Fantasy IV too much. You'll get me on a tangent about that. But there's like, just for the Super Nintendo, I think there's 3 different versions of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's the original.
Insane.
Yeah, there's the original Japanese release. There's the American release. And then there's the Japanese easy type release, which you think that's just a re-release of the American version. It's like, no, it's actually its own version that's slightly different than the American version. It's wild, man.
Right. There's a lot of Final Fantasy games. They have so many different versions that it's hard to pick which one. Like for 5, I'm going to be honest, I lean towards the Game Boy Advance port, although I usually stick with the Pixel Remaster. But I like the Game Boy Advance port just for the fact that you get the extra classes with it.
Oh, yeah. I want those, like, Cannoneer. Give me a Cannoneer.
Mm-hmm. So we've been talking a lot about classes. That's the big thing about Final Fantasy V, is that if you're familiar with 3, they take the job system from 3 and they more or less revamp it for 5, and it's so much better. I liked the job system from 3, but they nailed it with 5.
Yeah, the job system with 5 takes everything. I don't like 3's job system, if I'm being very blunt. I think it's just a system of progression. Because you start out with the basic classes, and then you get more you get like to the next crystal, and then there's obvious job transitions you do, and by the end of the game, those jobs at the beginning of the game, you don't want to use them anymore. They're useless. But Final Fantasy V actually makes every single job have a purpose, and there is an investment. There's a return on your investment for looking into every single one of them.
For me, the job system in 5 ruined the job system in 3. I would like the job system in 3 if I hadn't seen 5. I'm like, okay, this is a cool mechanic where I can change what my characters can do and their skills and whatnot. But then 5 did it, and 5 just, the way it did it was fantastic, with every job, for the most part, every job having some kind of use, and you getting permanent upgrades if you master a job, which is huge.
Yeah, that's the big takeaway from Final Fantasy V, is making sure that those upgrades stay with you. And I think that's a carryover from like the Wizardry series. I'm trying to remember if Dragon Quest had done that by that. No, Dragon Quest had not done that by that point.
Yeah, I don't think they have.
Yeah, well, Dragon Quest 7 did that. And I think Dragon Quest 6 did that. But Dragon Quest 5 and Final Fantasy 5 came out the same year, and it didn't have permanent carryover things for jobs up until 6 or 7. So yeah, this is, I don't want to say it's the first game to do this. I think it might be the first game within the JRPG genre to do this, because I think Wizardry does something similar to that. But yeah, I mean it's a big deal in the course of job systems, which I wish were more common, but games that have job systems now lean more into what Final Fantasy V does than what Dragon Quest 3 or Final Fantasy 3 did.
Right, and those two games were like stepping stones up to this point.
Very much so, very much so. Because they were still leaning into, how do you make the console RPG really the accessible PC RPG that a lot of the developers loved, and they're trying to play around with that the best they can. And Final Fantasy V really encapsulated that from the job perspective.
Now, although Final Fantasy V for me, and this could be a personal thing here, I enjoy the game mechanics more than I do the storyline, which is the first time that has ever happened in a Final Fantasy game from 1 to 5. Am I alone on that?
I'm trying to think, because Final Fantasy II might be a hot take here. I really like the mechanics in Final Fantasy II, but they wear out their welcome. And the story's not bad in 2. So
yeah, the story in 2 is pretty good. It's just that I can't progress in that game without my party tearing itself apart in order to raise their levels up.
Right. I think you're 100% correct. Like, because the story, I just want to say the story in 5 is not bad either. So when I say, and I'm assuming when you say that we like the mechanics more than the story itself, it's just that the mechanics themselves are so endearing and really do steal the show from anything else in the game, period.
Yeah, the mechanics are huge. I think part of it for me too is this is the first time where the story had many more lighthearted moments than previous games did. It's not a bad thing, but it was definitely different for me. Like, just the party felt very friendly towards each other, but on the other hand, also really lighthearted. It has its dark moments, obviously, but
yeah. Well, I mean, you saw that with, if you go back to the original Final Fantasies 1 through 4. Let's talk about the ones prior to that. 1 is lighthearted. But it's milquetoast. There's not really much going on. They just kind of made a game. And when you go into Final Fantasy 2 is very somber. I wouldn't call it dark. It's just depressing. 3, I think 3 is pretty lighthearted. It's not dark. It's kind of like 1. And then 4 has a lot of those lighthearted moments too. But I think what you see with 5 and what sets it apart from that, and I think that this is the allurement with 5's story, is you're right. It's very simple. It's very lighthearted with dark moments. But I think what really stands out for 5 is it has very clear lines between good and evil. There's no real twists along the way. It's not trying to drag the player with any complications or anything that they need to concern themselves with. Like, Gilgamesh is actually a bad guy because the original Warriors of Dawn bullied him when he was a child or something like that. No, Gilgamesh is a bad guy. Not Gilgamesh. Exdeath is a bad guy because Exdeath is a bad guy. And that's all you need to know.
I would hope you figured that out from his name.
Yeah. Exactly. It's very obvious. Like, who's the bad guy? It can't be Exdeath. Exdeath is a good person. Really? Okay.
We can't do that turnaround after Golbez in 4 anyway.
yeah. Look at 4. Like, Golbez is supposed to be this big villain, and they do a turnabout on it, and at the end of the game, he's your brother. Sorry, I don't know if what your spoiler policy is here.
Spoilers for a 40-year-old game.
Hey, look, some people haven't played it before, so I used to say the same thing, and some of my perspective's been changed on that. But anyway, but Golbez is your brother at the end of the game, and all of a sudden, before he leaves, you're like, brother, I really want to get to know you. It's like, this is someone who just massacred kingdoms, and you're just like, yeah, dude, come back and live with us. You're obviously under mind control. The people will understand, but you don't get any of that in Final Fantasy V. The closest you get to, and I'm going to say his name correctly now, is Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh kind of comes around at the end of the game, but he sacrifices himself in order to save you. But that's really the only kind of twist you get. Other than that, it's a pure good versus evil, uncomplicated story about how just you're a bunch of heroes that need to save the world.
I would say there's a few minor twists in the game, like the twin sisters. There's some twists there with the one actually being female after playing off as a male for the first couple hours of the game, and of course the fact that they're sisters in the first place.
Yep.
The fact that one has a poison fetish.
Yeah, that's true. She does. Now that you point that out, she definitely loves getting herself poisoned, even when she doesn't have to. Like, you're gonna get poisoned if you do that. Ah, it's fine. I like it. I think it's more you're gonna find an antidote for me and cure me, right? I like the cure.
Could very well be what it is. She takes that first poison arrow and then she's like found her spot, you know.
No kink shame here. Go ahead and poison yourself, girl. I may not be there every single time to save you, though, so just keep that in mind. The two worlds coming together is a bit of a twist. I did like that. Like, if you're going to call anything a twist, I mean, it's the expansion of the world and developing a different planet. That's really cool.
It was cool to see, especially after 4, how you had the like 3 different maps of the overworld, the underworld, and then the moon. It was cool to see, 2 different planets, and then they combined into your third new one. That was a nice touch.
And that was really a theme from Final Fantasy 3 through 6, is that, you have 3, you start off on a little island, and then the world just expands enormously after a certain point in that story. You're right with 4, you have the moon, the underworld, and your traditional overworld. Yeah, here you have 2 maps that come together to form a bigger map. So yeah, you do have 3 maps: the original world, the second world, and then the combined worlds. And you would see something similar to that sort of in 6, where you had the world of balance and the world of ruin. So Square loved to give the players different environments to explore and just put a twist on what the world would look like over time. Even you can kind of say the same thing with Final Fantasy 2, because there was a point in that story where you could just not go back to towns because the Emperor destroyed them, which does make a return here in Final Fantasy 5.
Mm-hmm. And I also like the combination thing at the very end, how they take the 2, and you can find elements of both worlds in this new one. To me, and this is a bit of a stretch, it reminded me of Chrono Trigger. How every time period you had certain landmarks in the way. I kind of got that feeling in this game.
Oh, do you have an example?
Let's say the tower or the castle where you get your ultimate weapons in this game, versus the Sunshrine in Chrono Trigger being in multiple different timelines. It's in that same spot. Whereas in this game, you can go to that third world and you can find that temple. Does that make sense?
A little bit, yeah.
It was kind of a cool thing. I'm like, okay, I kind of get a Chrono Trigger map aspect from it I really like.
I mean, that would make sense, because, of course, Sakaguchi and all that.
Right. So we talked a lot about the ATB, or not the ATB, the job system. What we haven't brought up yet, though, this is the second game that had the active time battle system. What do you think of its implementation here?
Fuck, man. Like, it's just so common to me. I don't know why. It's one of those weird things about the ATB system. And I can't put my finger on exactly why I feel this way. But I have this mindset that all RPGs are like this, where I know it's a very limited amount. So this is just second nature to me. This is Final Fantasy. Like, that's Final Fantasy's battle system. And it works just as well as it does in 4 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9.
If I'm remembering right, this is the first time they had the actual bar that you could see fill up. I don't think the bar was in 4.
I don't know if it was either. I always have this thing in my head that it was an option, but I can't remember if it was an option or not that you could have it displayed in the config. But
right, I want to say it popped up in like remakes of 4, but like in the original version of 4, it wasn't there.
Yeah, so you're finally seeing the mechanics come to life, and you're finally seeing how it's, how your turn is being determined within the calculations in the system and all that stuff. No, I think it's great. I love the active time battle system. I wish Final Fantasy still did that. I think moving away from that was a huge mistake, even though Final Fantasy X, I love Final Fantasy X. But I think the active time battle system is... And this is really... You're right. If this is the first time that you get to see that progress bar on screen telling the player when each character's turn is going to come up, except for the enemies, of course. We would have different games do that later on, but that's a big deal personally for me, because this is the type of RPG battle system that really influenced my perception on what makes a quality game within the genre.
Yeah, I had fun with it. Like, just the fact that I could finally see it and visualize what was going on, because I'll be honest, in 4, I struggled a little bit with it as a young kid playing it, because I couldn't see whose turn was coming up next.
Yeah. There's like, it feels more random in 4 because of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of randomness, especially like when you have wizards that are taking forever to cast a spell, which I think they didn't really do in this game. So if you remember in 4, like Palom and Porum would look like they're doing something with their hands and sitting on their ass while they're trying to do the twin magic attack, and it could take forever.
Yeah, and the enemies are just wailing on them in the meantime.
Exactly. And you're like, when is it going to be your turn? Like, when are you going to do something? Or when you need, like, one of your mages, when Rosa needs to cure people, and you're just wondering yourself, when is it going to be Rosa's turn next? Like, you don't know. And so when you can see that in Final Fantasy V, when you can see that progress bar fill up, you're like, okay, I can strategize a little easier here instead of just hoping and praying that the right character will get their turn in time.
Mm-hmm. Another cool feature I liked in this game, and this is something that you didn't see a lot in Super Nintendo games, was whenever you changed class, your character's outfit changed as well. And
yes.
Like that was huge, because there's many RPGs where you would equip new equipment or whatever, and your character looks identical to what they looked like at the beginning of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was generally 16-bit RPGs in this style anyway. But I like the fact that every single... I mean, how many jobs are there? I don't know off the top of my head, but there's
I believe 22.
So if there's 22 jobs, they have 22 times 5, which is 100. They have 110 different sprites specifically for the characters and their jobs. And they all have their own unique animations. They have their unique move sets. I mean, that's an enormous task to give to any single development team, and be like, okay, for the same characters 110 times, you need to do every single thing for them. I'm sure there's like some sort of programming magic they did, but yeah, that's really cool that the player gets to see that change immediately. Now, you also saw that with 3. You also saw that with Final Fantasy 3. Which was a big reason that Final Fantasy 3 didn't show up on the Wonder Swan, but Final Fantasy 4 did. So, I mean, it takes up more memory than people are probably assuming it did. I wonder what the size of the cart was for Final Fantasy 5 versus 4, because that would be an intense memory. I could see it being an intense memory demand.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of sprite work, and it's not just one sprite for all of them, too, because you gotta get their defense, you gotta get their offensive move, you gotta get the one where they're the running animation, so it's a lot of sprite work. Did you have a favorite outfit?
Favorite? I'd have to take a look. I know that I like Lena as whatever the one that she's in, like she has like little cat ears.
Oh, I think she Geomancer, maybe.
Yeah, so I like the Geomancer sprites. I like the Berserker sprites, even though I never use them either. But I like those too.
I think my favorite had to be John Travolta Bartz as a dancer.
Oh yeah,
that sprite was amazing.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking at they're great. Yeah, I like that little attention to detail, like, because you can tell like this game isn't, when it does things like that, like it's quote unquote taking itself seriously, but it like goes back to the point you made earlier, the lightheartedness that it always has about itself. Okay, it's the white mage for Kryl, who has the little cat ears. Yeah. I really like that one.
So did you take the time to master all of the jobs and then go back to Freelancer?
Oh, absolutely not.
I actually
No.
did in my Steam file.
Oh wow. Okay. Did you use quality of life improvements though?
No.
Oh, so you grinded it out all au natural.
Yeah, because at the time, the Steam version did not have the quality of life improvements. You only had 1x speed for experience and for gold.
That's
Yeah, those didn't come until, I want to say 6 to 9 months after the console ports got them.
So you did every job?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, by the time I was at endgame, I had at least 10 or 11 mastered already, though.
Did that include the additional jobs? Were the additional jobs in the Steam release? Like Cannoneer, Necromancer, or whatever the hell?
No, not in the Pixel Remaster release.
Oh, okay, you're talking Pixel Remaster. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking still the mobile version, way back in the day. No, so the way I would do it, because that's not a bad idea. In fact, that's the way the game is intended to be played, is you're supposed to master as many jobs as possible in the final dungeon. You're supposed to go back to Freelancer because certain jobs give certain benefits in terms of stat boosts and HP boosts and MP boosts and so on and so on.
Yeah, it gets insane. Like, Berserker, who's kind of like a pain to play with, but if you master him, you get like a plus 25 to stamina and a plus 21 to strength. It's insane.
Yeah. But here's kind of the catch to that, is that if one class has a benefit that supersedes another class, it doesn't stack. You only get the benefit of the class that has the higher stat rate. So I think like if the white mage has like a plus 20% to your MP and the black mage has a plus 30%, you're only going to get a plus 30%. Like the white mage's benefit to mastering that class doesn't exist anymore. So it's almost like you're encouraged to have a carefully curated set of jobs per character. And now you could just go balls out and, master everything and get everybody. But that doesn't seem to be the underlying intention of what they were attempting to do.
Yeah, in the last dungeon, I said, screw it, I grinded them all out.
Why not, right?
I'm already at endgame.
I have never beat Omega Weapon or Shinryu before, have you?
I've beaten Omega, I have not beaten Shinryu.
Okay. Yeah, I am not a big fan of the secret bosses in the Final Fantasy games. Like, ever.
It depends.
I've never enjoyed them.
It depends. I do not enjoy the ones in this game because I feel like you have to have a certain party set up to beat them, and if you don't have that party set up, there's no way of doing it.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the same case for all the Final Fantasies, though.
Most of them, yeah.
Yeah,
like Emerald and 7, at least there's more than one way to beat it.
Yes. I mean, 7, of course, is summon Knights of the Round and have everyone else mime it until it dies. That's probably the best way to take care of that.
I mean, that's one way of handling it.
Yeah, exactly. There's multiple ways. But then you get like to Ruby Weapon and like it's, why am I doing this? Like, what? Do I have nothing better in my life? But like that's kind of how I feel about the bosses here in Final Fantasy V. Is like I understand the point of ultimate bosses. It's so the developers can reward the player for, I mean, conceptually, of course, can reward the player for understanding the systems and the mechanics that they've asked them to master. The problem with Omega Weapon is that, like, you could run into that motherfucker and try not to. Like, it's right there in the middle of your path, so you could accidentally fight him. And Shinryu is in a treasure chest, and nothing tells you that it's an ultimate boss. Like, you're in for a fight.
That was a hell of a surprise, because I didn't realize my first playthrough he was in there. I'm just looting the dungeon, opened up a box, oh, monster inside, alright, whatever. Here comes this giant dragon just wailing on my party with me going, oh god, what did I do?
So I can imagine, like, if you don't have your party set up correctly, you're thinking to yourself, if this is just some monster in a chest, what is the final boss gonna be?
Yeah, like, he stomped me. I was not prepared. I still haven't beat Shinryu yet. I need to go back and figure out what the technique is, but yeah, he stomped me.
Yeah. It's Yeah, I do not like the ultimate bosses in 5. And I already said I don't like the ultimate bosses in really any of the Final Fantasy games. I don't think is there one in 6?
Only in the, like, not remaster, but the re-releases, you had the dragon boss, where if you beat all the dragons throughout the game, you'd have, like, an ultimate dragon in Kefka's Tower, but even then, he wasn't that difficult.
No, I didn't find 6 particularly difficult in general. Yeah, Kefka's Tower is supposed to be, like, the ultimate challenge, and I just thought it was, like, part of the game.
Yeah, I do like what they did with the tower, but I feel like they kind of rushed the ending, which is shocking to say in that game. But
Yeah.
Kefka's Tower felt like, oh, we gotta hurry up and tie up all these storyline plots. So, here's the 3 statues, and here's the 3 statues again, and here's that weapon again, and here's Kefka.
I'm not okay. I'm talking about the other Kefka's Tower, the Cultist Tower.
Oh, that one. Yeah, that one felt more of a, hey, just, like, use magic. Don't forget your wife, too, or your re-raise or whatever.
I hope you have an economizer and a gem box.
Right?
Oh, yeah,
Maybe clean up that dinosaur forest.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite job makeup?
Early on, I would run with a knight, usually all the time, even in, after I unlocked later crystals, I would run the knight. Red mage early on. Later on, I would drop that to a white mage. And then I would want a ninja, and I would want a dancer.
Okay. No, dancers are OP. Bards are OP.
Mm-hmm.
I love dancers and bards. But if you, like, starting out, like, the first crystal I like to get, I like to start out with, like, butts. I'm going to say butts. I like that name. I like me some butts. So I'm going to start out with butts as a monk, and then I'll have one of the characters be a thief for some stupid reason, and then a black mage and a white mage. And yeah, that's usually how I started off. I avoid the fight, the knight or the warrior or whatever, just because I think it's too stereotypical. Is that dumb? Yeah, probably. But I normally tend to do that. But the way I do it at the end of the game, nowadays, if I was just going to play for funsies, instead of doing the 4-job fiesta, is getting a blue mage and a trainer.
Oh.
Or a beastmaster. And that, when you start doing that, you break the fucking game. Because blue mages are just absolutely, like, overpowered if you do them right.
The Beastmaster, I believe that is the job where I got the most angry in this game. Because there's a item that you have to get where you have to catch a frog.
Yep.
I could not catch the fucking frog for the life of me. I would either... I would kill it every time. Like, I am doing everything I can. Changing jobs, changing weapons, trying to drop my party power level low enough to where I don't kill it. I am one-hitting these damn frogs. Like, oh my god, just give me the item.
Yeah, because you have to use the gourd. Like, you have to catch it, and then they give you a gourd, and it makes it expands it, or makes it easier to catch the monsters or to capture the monsters or whatever you do with it.
I spent 3 days catching a frog.
Oh god!
Like, I was ready to. I was playing at the time on the Miu Mini, which is like a little clone handheld, more or less.
Yeah.
I was ready to throw the thing across the room. I was getting so angry.
Oh man! But like, the reason I love it though is because I think there's another class that can do it. But if, like, when I had the 4-job fiesta and I had a trainer and a blue mage, making sure that the blue mage got all the abilities, especially like White Wind. It can be a great healer. There's an ability that it's what's that? I think it's when you're exiting the castle that's about to blow up. I can't remember. Is that the fire castle? I think it's the fire castle.
Yeah, because you go through the fire ship to get the crystal, and then it sends you back to the castle.
It's like called the Iron Claw or something like that. It has an ability that knocks you down to 10% of your health, or like 1% of your health, or something really low. And once your blue mage has that, there are so many enemies that have the heavy element, and makes like you use that attack and so many bosses, and like against bosses, full on bosses, you can use it against, and the fight's over within like 30 seconds. It's incredible. Blue mages are sex, man. They are so good.
Yeah, I think this is the first game that they were in, wasn't it?
It is, yeah. This is the debut of the Blue Mage. And
they're ridiculously OP if you get the right spells for them.
yeah, and like same with dancers and bards, because bards can play songs that will just increase your levels. And so I had a really bad party makeup. Well, I won't say really bad party makeup, but I had a difficult party makeup for one of the 4-job fiestas, but I had a bard. And what happens with the bard is if you just play for long enough, you keep your bard alive and you keep playing the music for a long enough period of time, all of a sudden, like the melee attacks from your thief are going to start being warrior attacks because they become like level like 100 or whatever. And so it's just... Oh, this is why I love the job system. Like knowing what to do and how to take advantage of things makes this game just so much fun to tinker with, to find the ultimate combination.
I also like the equipment options in this game, how you have a certain equipment that will just give you other abilities, or later on in the game, you can choose between two pieces of equipment that fits your playstyle. Like, fairly early on, you get the dancing dagger, and even if you don't have a dancer, you can equip someone with that dagger, and they more or less get one of the mechanics from the class, which I thought was cool. And then, like I said, later on, you can choose between the chicken knife or the brave blade. So if you don't spend a lot of time running from battles, if you want the brave blade, if you like, running, maybe choose chicken knife, because the stats of each weapon depend on how often you do those actions, which I really enjoyed.
Which one do you pick?
The latest playthrough I did, I actually went with the Brave Blade, but only because I'd never done it before. And I had made the decision early on. It's like, I'm not going to run from any battle. But every playthrough before that, chicken blade or chicken knife.
Yeah, same with the chicken knife. It's the law of averages. Like the chicken knife will never be more powerful than the Brave Blade if you never run. However, the second you run away from one battle, you've already diminished the value of the Brave Blade. So I have a feeling, like, for whatever reason, I'm going to run away from a battle, whether it's because I screwed up, or I'm just lazy and I don't want to fight, or I'm annoyed. So I will inevitably run away at some point. So that's why I always go with the chicken knife.
Yeah, I got to the point in my last playthrough, I just wanted to try the Brave Blade, so that meant to where if I lost a battle, I would just reset and reload my save.
Right.
It's like, I'm not going to run. You had said that you'd liked calling the main character Butts instead of Bart's, the Japanese kind of, sort of, but not really name.
Yeah.
Do you find it funny that Butts comes from the town Licks, or is it just me?
Butts is from Licks. His parents hated him, man. That's why I bet his mom poisoned herself. That's how she died. Because, she had a kid named Butts in the town of Licks. And,
I mean, that tracks. Maybe she had that same fetish that Linda had, and she couldn't get that cure spell in time.
It's why they get along so well. You always try to find someone that's like your mother. That's the saying. Yeah, I feel bad. I
feel like it's an underground thing in this world now, in the world of Final Fantasy V. You have this small subset of women that are getting off and poisoning themselves.
Oh, definitely.
That's amazing.
I do want to. That does bring up something about the story that I do kind of enjoy. There's no romantic subplot.
Right, that's something that's kind of rarely seen in these games.
Extraordinarily rare. And just not these games, just any game. Just a lot of like plots in general. Like there's always some sort of romantic subplot. Like I'm interested in this character. The only thing that even comes close is you find out that Butts and Galoof think that Ferris is hot while they're spying on her while she's asleep.
Not awkward at all.
And then after they knew that she was a girl, tried to force her to take off her clothes in front of them.
The early 90s were a different time.
Hey, why don't you Why don't you take off those clothes in front of the fire? We'll all get naked together. Totally knowing
We're all dudes here. We're all dudes here, right?
Yeah, let's do the manly thing and get naked.
So, the one area where the game did kind of get weak for me was the final boss storyline. Just the whole Xodyak. That's the name y'all came up with. And then whenever you get to him, he ends up being a giant tree. I know the tree thing fits into the storyline. I just didn't like it.
No, it's dumb. Giant piece of fucking wood. Oh no, that's going back to fetishes.
Cosmic wood. Cosmic wood.
Cosmic wood. But like it's ridiculous because at one point, like you think you kill Xodyak, and the reason Xodyak lives is because it becomes a splinter that puts himself into cryo. Get your head out of the gutter. She's a kid. And like it comes out and all of a sudden he's reborn again because the splinter became this giant stick. Like she wouldn't notice that?
It goes back to wood. It all goes back to wood.
It does. It does. It's his ambition is kind of cool. And the fact that he wants to unite the two worlds again. But he wants to do it so he could get like the power to destroy things at will. Which, again, this is a black and white good v evil story, so that's fine. But, like, why would you not want that? Why wouldn't you want the two worlds to come back together? Like,
right. I wish there was a plot line where, you know, maybe he had, let's say a relative or something that he was trying to reunite with, and they would only appear if you joined the worlds. Something like that. He rejoins the worlds, the relative ends up being dead, and that causes him to flip shit. Like, I would have enjoyed the storyline like that. But
he could be limp death.
Yeah. But this game also does go hard with Galuf, because everyone always remembers Aerith from Final Fantasy VII passing away, but that more or less happened in this game whenever you lose Galuf, because you straight lose him. The only difference is that, you know, there happens to be an item that gives Kryl all of his abilities, so
It becomes kind of moot. Like he's gone, but he's not really gone. But at the same point, like he is gone. They killed off a character. He is gone forever. And that does piss me off about Final Fantasy VII fan. When they're all like, oh, we lost a character from our party and we'll never get them back again. That was the first time an RPG ever did that. Like, excuse me?
Yeah, what? Final Fantasy V definitely did it first.
Oh, a lot of games did it first. Final Fantasy II did it. Final Fantasy III did it. Phantasy Star 2 did it.
I don't know if I'd say 2 did it. 2 killed off a lot of guest characters.
I mean, yeah, but they're still characters. You're not told they're not going to be a permanent member of your party.
But the third time around, you're kind of like, gee, I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it becomes almost comical. The how often they kill off characters. Final Fantasy IV kills off Tella.
The fourth character in Final Fantasy II is like being the drummer in Spinal Tap.
But all I'm trying to say is like other major games had done it before. So when I know a little bit of a rant, but there it is. Like Final Fantasy VII, Aerith's death isn't that special. It's just the way they communicated it that made it special. But the fact that she died is not special because it had happened plenty of times before Final Fantasy VII.
What I will say about 7 killed off your dedicated healing character without replacing them. I will say that.
There are no dedicated healing characters in Final Fantasy VII. They're all the same. The only difference is limit breaks.
Yeah, your dedicated limit breaks. I said your healing character, not your healing materia.
Okay. Fair enough. Well,
the materia in that game is almost a character in itself.
That's okay. I will accept that. But yeah, Galuf dying. I mean, by the time most people played the game, they had probably heard about it. Just because if you're going to play Final Fantasy V, especially back then, you had probably done some research on it. Especially because no one knew how to spell Kryle's name until the official translation. Because it was like Kururubaba or whatever.
The way that Galuf dies, though, it's such a badass death in this game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of... I would say that it's more badass than Tella's.
Oh, absolutely. Just the fact that he goes down to 0 and he's still swinging and doing shit. It's like, oh, damn.
Well, you know what? It also kind of depends on the class. Because if he's a dancer or something...
Oh, no.
I've had that before. Like, he was like some really weak class. And he's like fighting against X-Death. And he's just hitting with the rod, like, tink, tink. Ah, you don't stop me. Like, oh no. This is horrible.
I can just imagine, I know it don't actually happen, but I can just imagine him having like the dancing dagger equipped. It's like, you know, here comes X-Death and Galuf's like, jitterbug.
Yeah. It's funny, man. Unintentionally funny.
That's a lot of this game, in my opinion. Like we've joked about the poisoning of Lena repeatedly and how she's getting off on it. We've joked about the main character the main villain has a huge wood fetish.
Yeah. I mean,
there's so much about this game that is unintentionally hilarious, and you put that with the killer game mechanics. Again, my only real on this game is a story. And I'm not calling it a bad story by any means, but whenever you go back to this game after playing so many other RPGs, I think that's what kind of soured me on it.
So you're saying going back to this after playing so many is what soured you on this game?
Not on the game, the story.
Okay.
I absolutely love the game mechanics. Like, it's better than so many other RPGs that came out later. Great example, Lunar. I love Lunar. Yeah. Mechanically, this game beats the hell out of it.
Oh, yeah. I think Lunar's mechanics, and I love Lunar too. I think Lunar 2 is my favorite 16-bit RPG, period. But if you want to talk about mechanics, yeah, I mean, I think Lunar's mechanics were more celebrated in the era that it came out, and so like they're slightly overrated. I think that's the case with that. And yeah, Final Fantasy V's mechanics beat it like hands down, not even close.
My issue with Lunar is every boss just used sword dance.
Yeah, it becomes very repetitive and mechanical at some point.
And that's how you beat the game.
Yeah.
Whereas this game took some work to beat.
Yeah, the Sega CD version, like that, I remember the end of the Sega CD version the last time I did a full playthrough of Lunar, and it becomes comically easy at the end of the game, because you just know how to buff and how to debuff, and then, yeah, it's a cakewalk. But at no point, like, Final Fantasy V can become a cakewalk, too, but you have to engineer, you have to earn it. It's not given to you. There's a sense of accomplishment with the job system and beating X-Death like a redheaded stepchild at the end of the game. That's not an easy task. Like, you have to know what you're doing. You have to plan it out.
You gotta think about it.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, oh, new crystal, I'm gonna use these new jobs and nothing else.
Yeah. And that's part of the joy of Final Fantasy V as well. I think that's what makes it really difficult to get into for a lot of people who have said, like, oh, I played it once and I had to put it down. It's because it's so daunting. You don't know the depth of the job system and how to make everything work with each other. Like, that takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of understanding of what's happening with the job system. If you just are like, well, I think the red mage looks cool, I'm going to stick with the red mage. Yeah, you're going to get stomped later on in the game if you just stick with 4 classes that you really like and you're not experimenting. And I think that's the reason I put it down, is because I made it, you know that battle with the 4 crystal slime things that are elemental?
Yeah, you kind of like need to kill them all at the same time.
Yeah, no, not that one. Those are the gargoyles. The ones that when they get low on health, the stronger spells they cast, and they're all.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. And like I that was the location where I put down the game the first time I played. The first time I was actually trying to get through it, like a long time ago. And I was just like, I can't do this no matter what job combination I do. And I just tried to be a samurai and throw gil at them the entire time. That was also a bad decision because they all cast their major spells at the same time and I died. So I didn't understand what I was supposed to be doing and how I was supposed to be taking advantage of it. But I think once you do, that's when this game clicks for a lot of people. Those are the people that want to tell you this game is special is because they understand it.
Again, that took me a bit to get into it because I emulated it in the PS1 era, couldn't get into it. Got it for the Game Boy Advance, and I mean, yeah, I had the battery issue, but I didn't really work to replace the battery or anything. It's like, I got other stuff I can play, it's fine. So yeah, it took me a few times to actually really get into it. But once I did, I got hooked in the job system and mechanics, which, I mean, the same thing happened to me with Final Fantasy Tactics. It's a game that took me a while to get into.
And see, kind of a hot take here. I like Final Fantasy V's job system more than Final Fantasy Tactics. I think Tactics is like you're spending way too much time in menus and getting way too much in the nitty gritty. And I can understand why a lot of people would prefer Tactics. I'm not saying it's bad, but kind of being more narrowly focused and limiting exactly how much you can do with your characters in 5, I think makes it a little bit better because you have 4 characters and you want to try and balance them out the best you can and how you bring them up. Whereas Final Fantasy Tactics is just like, hey, the reins are off. Fuck it, do whatever. But ultimately, it comes down to getting the special characters and just keeping them as their base class because they get all the most powerful stuff and then moving around when you're more available. So I like 5 slightly more.
Well, confession time here. For 5, I wanted to play it and beat it legitimately. Tactics pissed me off to the point to where about 3/4 of the way through the game, I started cheating it, so I found myself in battles that were impossible to beat due to my job and class setup.
Yeah, it's cheesy. Like Tactics is it cheeses you. Yeah, I have my problems with Tactics.
I slapped that Game Shark in the back of that PlayStation so hard.
Good. I'm glad I wasn't the only one because I didn't know about the V-Graph fight for a long time. It had this reputation for being utterly horrible. And then when I beat it legitimately, I understood why. But I remember the reason I don't think I remember it like everyone else did is because I definitely was using the Game Shark.
Oh yeah, I totally used the Game Shark for about, I want to say 3/4 of the way through the game, just because I found myself in the position to where there was nothing I could do, and I didn't want to throw away all those hours playing the game. So it's like, screw it, my party now has a lot more HP.
Yeah.
I'm beating this game. I've got 80 hours into it. I'm not restarting it.
I still love Tactics, though. But it's just, yeah, you're right. There's some battles that go off the rails. How did you find the difficulty of the final boss in Final Fantasy V?
I've never had a problem with him.
Okay. I think
honestly, I had more problems with some of the bosses in the whole Void area than I did with him.
Okay. No, I could see that. I think it's because of the 4-Job Fiesta, maybe the Pixel remaster, because I think they've dialed up the difficulty a little bit since its initial release. But I find it to actually be one of the harder bosses, the harder final bosses in the series.
Now, I've only beaten the game 3 times. I've beaten the mobile Steam port once, and then I've beaten the Pixel remaster twice. So maybe keep that in mind.
Okay. Well, the Pixel remaster, I've always found very faithful to the original Super Nintendo version because I've beaten the advanced version. I went back and I beat the Super Nintendo version. I did that one year for the 4-Job Fiesta. I have not beaten the PlayStation version. I have no intention to. I've beaten the Pixel remaster when it came out. I beat it in subsequent years, but I do think. Last year, I could definitely tell they tweaked the difficulty a little bit on the Pixel remasters to not be so mind-numbingly easy. because they were simple when they came out. They were dumb, except for Final Fantasy V. But that has gotten a little bit more difficult.
Looking at my achievement listing, it looks like the first time I beat the game was on October 30th of 2015. That's when I got the achievement. Yeah, that's the mobile one. That's when I got the achievement of you defeated Neo Exif without anyone in your party dying. And then for the new one, let me go through my achievement listing on it. Beat it March 13th, 2023. And then I got the achievement of mastering all jobs on March 12th, 2023.
Yep, not doing that. You can proudly display that achievement. You can have it.
I don't know why. I didn't think it was that bad, but it could be just because I was grinding out the levels in the final dungeon where you're getting all sorts of job points at that point.
Yeah, probably. I don't have the patience for that anymore.
I don't know. I just felt the need to in this game.
When did I first beat the game? Let me take a look. Now that you pulled it up, I can tell it was in 2022. That's not when I first beat the game. That's when I did the Pixel Remaster.
Right, the Pixel Remaster.
Yeah. I still have achievements that I need to get. But
it's definitely worth beating, especially just to enjoy the game mechanics.
No, I 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you.
So, of course, if someone were to buy this game today, I'd recommend the Pixel Remaster if you're going to buy a version of it.
I agree.
It's the most convenient way of getting a hold of it. Looking at eBay right now, you can get the Game Boy Advance cartridge for about $30 shipped. If you were to want it, that would be the second way I'd recommend playing it.
Yeah, the Game Boy Advance would be number 2. I don't think you really need to play any of the other versions. I know that there's probably people out there with a soft spot in their heart for the Super Nintendo or Super Famicom version. But the Game Boy Advance and the Pixel Remaster are the only 2 versions you really need to worry about.
I would say only play those unless you find yourself like really, really enjoying the game. And if that's the case, find yourself an emulator and find some of those early translated ROMs, just so you can enjoy the complete chaos of an early translated game.
I love those early translated games. They're great. Especially, I think the Final Fantasy V one was pretty good. But I know what you're talking about, because back in the day, man, all fan translations were like, look how many times they're saying fucking shit, man. That's what we don't get here in America. That's what they put in their Japanese games all the time. They curse all the time.
Yeah, and for a while, I thought that was true from these translations. Like, I had played the translation of Final Fantasy VI, and Biggs and Wedge are calling Terra a bitch, and I'm here like, oh! I was a young, dumb 15-year-old kid.
Yeah, that's what that's exactly what they were doing in Japan. That's a faithful translation. Ugh.
But yeah, overall my recommendation is to definitely go back and play this if you're a fan of any kind of turn-based RPG. You gotta play this one. The story might rub you the wrong way like it did me, but the game mechanics will keep you going.
Yeah, 100%. I plan on playing it again this year for the 4-Job Fiesta. You should join.
I made an attempt at the first go around and time just killed me. I'm gonna try again.
Yeah. Time. What is time?
Nothing but a miserable pile of secrets. So before we wrap this up, man, be sure to plug your show again. Tell everyone where you're from.
Yeah, sure.
Go
thanks.
to a real podcast.
Come on, man. You're a real podcast. Don't do that. Your show's good. But head on over to linktr.ee/Retro Hangover, where you can listen to the Retro Hangover podcast. Once again, it is a retro video game podcast where me and my friend Shane talk about retro video games, and usually with a guest. So head on over there. Just a warning to everybody, I like to scream very loudly in the opening moments of the episode, so you have been warned. And no, I'm not getting rid of it. But yeah, go check it out. And yeah, games are 10 years older. And we also have a top 5 show that we do called The Flight, where we give our top 5 of whatever topics our patrons throw at us. So that's where I'm at. That's where you can find me. And Lethko, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's been a pleasure to be on Afterglow.
Hey, thank you for coming on. A quick note for anyone listening right now, check out Retro Hangover. If you check the show notes, go to the link tree there, scroll down to Friends of the Show, and there will be a link to Retro Hangover in there. So be sure to check out Chris and everyone else over at Retro Hangover. Once again, thank you for taking out your day to coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it was a blast. I love talking about Final Fantasy V, man. So thank you so much for having me on here.
All right, well, hopefully we can maybe make schedules online, get you on again sometime.
Yeah, I would love to.
All right, thank you again. And of course, as always, thank you for joining us for another episode of Afterglow. Special thanks to Chris, aka Xodyak, from Retro Hangover, for joining me for this episode. It was really cool to find another RPG fan. Retro Hangover has been added to our link tree as well. So if you're looking for more podcasts, be sure to check out the show notes where you're going to find our link tree. In that link tree, if you go to the Friends of the Show, you will find Retro Hangover's link tree. And then from there, that'll take you to all things Retro Hangover, where to listen to them, their Discord, and all them goodies. On top of that, there's many other Friends of the Show to check out. If you're looking for my Discord, you'll also find that in those show notes. If you're looking to support Afterglow in other ways, there is, of course, a Patreon. For $1 a month, you can get a shout-out at the end of every episode. And if you don't want to do $1 a month, check out the Patreon anyway, because there's all kinds of news and updates I post over there, usually every few months or so. There's also a link to a merch store if you want to grab like an Afterglow t-shirt, a sticker, a magnet, or whatever. That's definitely for the hardcore supporters, but if you want to do something like that, feel free to. That's why the store's there. Other than that, I'm going to play some messages from some other shows that would like you to check them out. But then after that, of course, this is a Final Fantasy episode. So after everyone talking about their shows, there's going to be one final music track, which is, of course, Final Fantasy V's version of the Prelude.
Hello and welcome to the Reviews Brothers. It's me, Martin, and you can join me on YouTube where I have hundreds of videos covering a huge range of video game topics. I've got top 10s, hidden gems, console-focused A to Zs, as well as dedicated videos to topics like Doom mods, 3D platform games, ninja games, pirate games, and more. I cover all systems from Commodore 64 right up to modern consoles. Nothing gaming is off the table. So be sure to search for the Reviews Brothers on YouTube as well as on Instagram and TikTok for hundreds of retro and modern video game reviews.
For more than 15 years, Retro Gaming Roundup has been the centre of your retro gaming universe, with top 10s, interviews, game reviews, news, and much more from all over the globe. Be sure to tune in every month for a new dose of Retro Gaming Roundup. That's RetroGamingRoundup.com.
Hey, this is Toby, one half of the Secret Levels podcast. We're a podcast that goes over old retro games. We go over the history, the story, the gameplay, some fun facts. We even rage a little bit. And then we go and give it a nice 1 to 10 rating to let you know if it's still worth playing. We have over 200 reviews for games on the NES, the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and many other consoles. You can find us on all the major podcasting apps, such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can follow us on social media at Secret Levels Pod. Game over, folks.
Afterglow listeners, it's me, Keith Gasper, coming at you from the #1 retro gaming podcast, the Main Quest Podcast. Come hang out as a guest and I play and discuss a game from the backlog of my childhood. We're talking about our history and the history of the game and if it's worth checking out today. We're talking about games from the NES, the Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx, Game Boy, and much more. And that's just on the main feed. If you enjoy what you're hearing on Afterglow, you're going to enjoy the Main Quest, and I'm happy to have you. Find the Main Quest on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts are downloaded.
Hello, my name is Aaron. I'm one half of Super Pod Saga, a topical variety video game podcast fueled entirely by nostalgia and unleaded gasoline. Super Pod Saga, we discuss a different video game topic each and every week. We have new episodes every single Monday covering a different video game topic. More than anything, we want to entertain our listeners and make you feel like you're one of the boys, like you're hanging out at a campfire with some of your best zany, caffeine-powered buddies and just talking about your favorite games and all that stuff. Stop on down to Super Pod Saga. It's on every podcatcher there is. If it's not, let me know and we'll get on it. But again, Super Pod Saga, stop on by.